He had 11.8 million subscribers. His videos had been watched 2.54 billion times. His channel had more reach than most television networks. And on January 28, 2025, he stood in front of a camera and said he was done, and then listed the 350-acre ranch where he filmed everything for $15 million. That man is Matt Carriker, the veterinarian from Boerne, Texas, who built Demolition Ranch into the largest firearms channel in YouTube history, and then confirmed everything the Rumours had been saying for the past 2 years. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the retirement announcement wasn't a surprise to anyone paying close attention, and why the full story is more complicated and more human than the headline makes it sound. Matt Carriker didn't grow up around guns. He grew up around animals. His father, Dr. Lee Carriker, is a veterinarian who ran a practice in Boerne, a small city just outside San Antonio in the Texas Hill Country. Matt spent his childhood at that clinic. He watched his dad work. He understood, from an early age, that this was what he was going to do too. There was never a dramatic moment of decision. It was just the path that made sense for who he was. He graduated from Boerne High School in 2004 and enrolled at Texas A&M College of Veterinary Medicine and Biomedical Sciences. That's one of the most rigorous veterinary programs in the country. It takes years, it demands everything. And while he was working through that program, in April 2007, he uploaded his first YouTube video. It wasn't about guns, it was about his dog and a deer. The video was simple, unpolished, it had no strategy behind it. Carriker was a college student posting clips from his life, the same way millions of people were experimenting with this new platform that had only been around for 2 years. Nobody was watching yet, nobody had any reason to. He posted more, videos of animals, videos of his car, videos of whatever he happened to find interesting that week. The channel sat there quietly for 4 years with a modest audience, while he continued pushing through vet school. He graduated with his Doctor of Veterinary Medicine in 2012. By that point, the other channel, the one that would change everything, was already a year old. And if you think that was surprising, stay with me, because this next part is why the whole story matters. On January 3, 2011, Matt Carriker posted a video of himself firing a shotgun at a computer monitor. That was the first Demolition Ranch video. The concept was almost absurdly simple. What happens when you shoot things? Armor, cars, household objects, materials nobody had thought to test before. There was no deep philosophy behind it. Carriker was curious about firearms. He had access to them. He had a camera. That was the entire business plan. What nobody expected, including Carriker himself, was how well it would work. The channel found an audience fast. Gun owners who were also curious. People who had never touched a firearm in their life, but found the experiments genuinely interesting. Kids who stumbled on it and couldn't stop watching. The tone was central to why it connected. Carriker was never trying to be intimidating. He was never trying to be extreme. He was just a guy having fun with something he liked, and his obvious enjoyment pulled people in. By the mid-2010s, Demolition Ranch wasn't just a YouTube channel. It was an institution. Carriker became the defining face of what people started calling GunTube, the firearms-focused corner of the platform. He was doing things nobody else was doing, framing firearms content through humor and curiosity rather than politics or aggression. In 2014, he added Vet Ranch, a channel that used his veterinary skills to treat injured and abandoned animals, often pulled from shelters. It was the opposite of Demolition Ranch in every way, and it attracted millions of subscribers who had no interest in guns at all. The two channels together told a more complete story of who Matt Carriker actually was, someone whose life existed on both ends of a spectrum that most people wouldn't think to combine. By 2016, he launched Bunker Branding, a merchandise and apparel company that didn't just serve his own audience, but expanded to serve other creators in the firearms space. He had turned a single YouTube channel into a multi-channel operation with its own production arm, its own merchandise arm, and soon its own physical property. Most people who know this story stop here, but the real story starts right now. The Desperado Resort didn't start as a business venture. It started as a ranch. Carriker bought a 350-acre property outside Boerne and began developing it, for events, for outdoor recreation, eventually for hospitality. The resort became another line of income, another piece of a growing enterprise that now included YouTube ad revenue, merchandise, sponsorships, a veterinary clinic, and real estate. At its peak, the Demolition Ranch operation was generating, according to published estimates, between $445,000 and $504,000 annually from YouTube alone, before merchandise, brand deals, or any of the other revenue streams were factored in. From the outside, it looked like a machine running perfectly. But around 2022 and 2023, the metrics started shifting. Monthly views on Demolition Ranch dropped, not collapsed, dropped, slowly but measurably. By the time Carriker stepped away, the channel's average monthly views had fallen by roughly 10 million compared to its peak. In a business built on audience size, a sustained drop of that scale carries meaning. It changes what advertisers pay. It changes algorithm reach. It changes the economics of every decision you make going forward. At the same time, the content itself was changing. Viewers who had followed the channel for years started noticing that the high-energy explosive tests and extreme experiments were appearing less frequently. Community posts and business updates were filling more of the schedule. The channel was still active, still finding audiences, but it wasn't the same channel it had been in 2016. Carriker addressed this directly in a March 2024 livestream, telling viewers the channel was evolving, not ending. He acknowledged he wasn't 25 anymore, and that the pace he had sustained for over a decade wasn't sustainable the same way it once was. He was being honest. What he hadn't said yet was what he was actually thinking about doing. Here's what the comments kept asking. And here's the answer they never got. Until now. July 2024 was the month 3 separate problems arrived simultaneously. On July 13, 2024, a gunman attempted to assassinate then-former President Donald Trump at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. The attacker, Thomas Matthew Crooks, was killed at the scene. In the immediate aftermath, as news cameras and journalists analyzed every detail of the footage, one detail landed in the mainstream press. Crooks had been wearing a Demolition Ranch t-shirt. The shirt was real. It was a genuine piece of Demolition Ranch merchandise made by Bunker Branding. Carriker responded quickly and directly. He stated publicly that he was in disbelief. He posted a video addressing the situation, making clear that neither his channel, his ranch, nor his brand promoted violence in any form. He said Crooks had simply bought a shirt online. He condemned the attack without qualification. The response didn't stop the coverage. For several days, Demolition Ranch was being named in stories that had nothing to do with YouTube, firearms content, or entertainment. The brand, built over 13 years on curiosity and humor, was suddenly being discussed in political contexts that Carriker had never sought and had no way to control. Some merchandise was pulled from sale in the aftermath. The hat associated with another creator's brand that Bunker Branding produced was discontinued. The t-shirt itself remained available, but the association had been made, and it lived on in search results in a way Carriker could not undo. That was the first thing. The second came within weeks. YouTube updated its firearm content policies in June 2024, just weeks before the Trump assassination attempt, restricting certain types of firearms videos and age-gating content in ways that directly limited reach. Carriker made a video criticizing the new rules, telling his audience that the age restrictions alone affected the channel's numbers significantly. He used the word big time, 2 external events, 1 internal trend that had already been declining for 2 years, all arriving in the same 6-month window. 1 phone call, 1 conversation. That's all it took to change the direction of everything. Here is the detail that almost every piece of coverage about Matt Carriker's retirement missed. While Demolition Ranch was accumulating 2.54 billion views, while Carriker was building the resort, running Bunker Branding, managing 3 YouTube channels, doing brand deals, racing off-road vehicles in events like the Mint 400, he never actually stopped being a veterinarian. He worked approximately 30 hours a week at Fair Oaks Ranch Veterinary, the clinic he built on the foundation his father established. He was still treating animals, still performing surgeries, still operating as a licensed vet through every year of YouTube fame. The Vet Ranch channel documented some of this. Stray animals brought in from shelters, surgical procedures filmed with the ad revenue used directly to fund the treatments. But the sheer volume of work he was doing in the clinic while simultaneously running the YouTube operation rarely got discussed. That matters because it changes what the retirement means. For most creators, walking away from YouTube means walking away from their career. For Carriker, it meant walking back to a career he never left. The veterinary clinic was still there. His license was still active. The skills hadn't atrophied. He had simply been running 2 full lives in parallel for over a decade, and he was choosing, deliberately, which one to center. His father had built something in that clinic. His brother Mark, who died of cancer in March 2020, a loss Carriker spoke about openly, had been part of the family's story in Texas, a story that predated YouTube entirely. The clinic, the community, the animals, the people who brought them in. That world existed before the cameras and would exist after them. When Carriker said, in his retirement announcement, that he wanted to plan his day around what would make the best day rather than what would make the best video. This is the context that makes that statement make complete sense. And if you think that was surprising, stay with me because this next part is why the whole story matters. January 28, 2025, exactly 11 years to the day after Vet Ranch launched. Carriker posted a video to Demolition Ranch. The title wasn't dramatic, the content was. He told his audience he was retiring, not taking a break, not slowing down, retiring. He described the channel as something that had surpassed every goal he set for it. He said he felt nervous and sad. He said his children were the reason, that the time his career demanded was time he was no longer willing to trade for what it returned. He also confirmed what months of rumor had been circling. The Desperado Resort was being listed for sale. The asking price was $15 million for the 350-acre property in Boerne that had been central to the Demolition Ranch operation for years. 2 months later, in March 2025, he uploaded the final videos. On Off the Ranch, a video titled The End, Carriker sitting on his Texas property while rain fell around him, talking about 18 years of being on YouTube, the early fear that he wasn't good enough to find an audience, the surprise when people responded not to anything elaborate, but simply to his being himself. On Demolition Ranch, a video titled Thank You for Everything, friends, tanks, grenades, laughter, and a single quiet moment between experiments, where he said, almost to himself, "It's weird. This is the last time." Both videos landed with an audience that had in many cases watched since the beginning. The comments were not uniform. Some fans felt a sense of grief. Others expressed respect. Others said they had seen this coming since 2023. What happened next is the reason this story spread across the internet. The channel itself isn't going anywhere, in the sense that the archive remains. Over 700 videos, 2.54 billion views. The comment sections, the community posts, the years of experimentation preserved exactly as they were uploaded. Bunker branding continues to exist and serve other creators. The merchandise company Carriker built didn't dissolve with his retirement. It had become its own operation with its own clients, operating beyond the Demolition Ranch brand it was originally built to serve. Fair Oaks Ranch Veterinary is still open. Carriker hasn't commented extensively on his day-to-day post-retirement life, but the signals he sent in his final videos pointed clearly toward a return to the clinic as his primary focus. The Desperado Resort was listed but had not sold as of mid-2025. Carriker stated at the time of listing that if the property didn't sell, he would continue operating it, simply without creating YouTube content about it. The resort and the channel were separate things, even if they occupied the same land. What this story leaves behind, when you trace it all the way through, is a portrait of someone who managed something genuinely rare in the creator economy. He left at the top. Not because he had to, not because the platform forced him out, not because a scandal ended things, not because the money ran out. He looked at what he had built and decided, clearly and deliberately, that he had built enough. He was 38 years old when he made that call. Most people in his position, with the platform still running, the audience still there, the revenue still coming in, would have stayed. The creator economy produces almost no examples of people voluntarily walking away from 9-figure view counts while the engine is still running. But Matt Carriker had always had the other life to walk back to. The one that started in his father's clinic in Boerne before YouTube existed. The one that never stopped. And that's when the decision was made. The one nobody around him saw coming. There's a version of this story that's easy to tell. A creator burns out. The platform changes. A controversy complicates things. He quits. That version is partially true. The YouTube policy changes were real. The merchandise incident was real. The view decline was real. But none of those things, individually or together, fully explain a man with 11.8 million subscribers and a multi-channel operation walking away voluntarily. The fuller version requires the other career, the one running quietly underneath everything. The fact that while the internet was watching Carriker shoot things and blow things up, he was also spending 30 hours a week treating animals at a clinic in the Texas Hill Country. The fact that his identity, the one he chose at 18, following his father into a profession, was never the one on camera. Demolition Ranch was enormous. It was also, in a specific sense, always secondary. And when the pressures of 2024 arrived, the policy changes, the reputational complications, the years of sustained creative output starting to weigh on him. What Carriker had was something most creators don't. Somewhere to go that wasn't YouTube. A life already built. A profession already practiced. Children who knew who their father was when the cameras were off. That's the rumor he confirmed. Not that the channel was ending, not that the business was struggling. The real confirmation was quieter than that the life he wanted had always been the one in Boerne, in the clinic, with the animals and the family, and that the channel, for all its reach, had always been built around that life rather than instead of it. He built one of the biggest channels on the platform, and then he went back to what he was doing before it existed. 14 years, over 700 videos, 2.54 billion views, a merchandise company, a resort, 2 spin-off channels, and a veterinary practice he never left. That's what Matt Carriker built, and that's what he walked away from, on his own terms, at 38 years old, to spend more time being a father and a vet in the Texas Hill Country. Whatever pressures shaped the timing, the decision itself was his. And that decision, in a creator economy where almost nobody exits voluntarily, says something about who he always was underneath the brand. What comes next is less certain. The Desperado Resort is still on the market. The clinic remains open. Whether Carriker ever returns to any form of content creation, in any capacity, on any platform, he hasn't said. What he has said is that he wants his days to belong to him again. So here's the question. Do you think Matt Carriker made the right call walking away from Demolition Ranch at the height of his reach, or did he leave too soon?